Divine revelation, Balaam, Balak, and the miraculous talking donkey's incredible journey of faith. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the sons of Israel thrived in the wilderness after their exodus from Egypt. Their numbers increased, and the hand of the Almighty Yahweh was upon them, granting them victory over their enemies. In the land of Moab, a land marked by mountains and the vast wilderness, fear spread like wildfire. King Balak of Moab stood upon the heights, looking down upon the encampment of the Israelites. The presence of this multitude stirred terror deep within his heart, knowing their reputation as a people blessed by God shook him to his core. In desperate concern for his kingdom, Balak summoned Balaam, a renowned diviner known for his prophetic insights. Word of Balaam's abilities had traveled far and wide. He who could gather omens and utter curses with great skill was now his hope. As Balak sent forth his emissaries, promising great wealth and honor to Balaam, all he could ponder were the riches that lay ahead. Balaam, poised to ride forth to Moab, mounted his donkey, the shimmering sun illuminating the golden path before him, yet within the undertones of this journey lay a tension, a growing heaviness that soon thickened the air. As they traversed the rugged expanses, the donkey began to act oddly. She halted suddenly, her ears perked, sensing a danger that only she could see. Balaam's irritation flared, and he struck her. "What are you doing, you stubborn beast?" he shouted, failing to grasp the gravity of the situation around him. Stricken with silence, the air thick with divine portent, the donkey pressed herself against the rugged wall, refusing to move further. In that surreal moment, under God's sovereign will, the donkey spoke, her voice echoing through the valley, "What have I done to you that you have beaten me these 3 times? Balaam, astonished and bewildered, found himself in conversation with the very creature that bore him, his heart pounding with realization. Before he could muster an answer, the veil of his understanding was lifted. The eyes of his heart opened as he was met by the awe-inspiring presence of the angel of the Lord, standing before him with a drawn sword. This divine encounter weighed heavily upon Balaam, exposing a choice before him, one that would determine the course of his journey. Would he pursue the path of worldly gain, or would he heed the call of the Almighty? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful stories from Scripture. Hit the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed by how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. With the divine sword glimmering in the light, Balaam quaked in trepidation. The presence of the angel sealed his fate and illuminated God's ultimate purpose for him. A choice weighed against the glittering lure of Balak's promises. Assurance of wealth and honor now felt irrelevant against the backdrop of divine will. As Balaam stood trembling, a moment had come. The heart that once aimed for earthly treasures now wrestled against a truth far greater. Would he voice blessing instead of cursing, becoming an unwilling herald of God's design? The answer hung in sacred silence, leaving Balaam and all who heard on the precipice of destiny, with the unfolding chapters of the divine narrative still veiled in mystery. Balaam, shaken by the encounter with the angel of the Lord, fell to his knees, his heart racing like the swift coursing of a river. "Alas, my Lord," he cried, "I have sinned, for I did not know that you stood in the way against me. If it is evil in your sight, I will turn back." Yet the voice of the angel resonated with authority. "Go with the men, but speak only what I tell you." The path had been laid before Balaam, a calling wrapped in both blessing and warning. The journey resumed, and once more he mounted his donkey, this time with trembling reverence. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting golden rays over the mountains of Moab, Balak awaited his emissary with bated breath. The king's heart brimmed with anticipation, for he believed that Balaam would return to him, bearing words that would bring doom upon Israel. When Balaam arrived and stood before Balak, the king guided him to the high places of Baal, where shrines stood in defiance of the God of Israel. "Come," Balak urged, "and curse this people for me. For I know that whomever you bless is blessed, and whom you curse is cursed." Balaam gazed upon the multitude of Israel, an uncountable swarm beneath the stars, innocent and blissfully unaware of the treachery plotted against them. In his deep contemplation, Balaam sought a word from Yahweh. As he prepared altars of sacrifice, a sacred stillness enveloped him. Thus, he returned to Balak, briefed in prayer, and awaited divine revelation with a heart suspended on the precipice of obedience. That night, the Lord met Balaam, whispering instructions under the cover of darkness. You shall speak only the words I give you, my people are blessed and beyond your wrath. As dawn's light broke over the hills, Balaam was filled with purpose, the words of the Almighty freshly engraved upon his heart. The people of Israel are like a lion rising from its lair, they shall not be ashamed. Balaam proclaimed, his voice ringing like thunder across the valley. Balak's countenance fell, dismay washing over him as he heard the unexpected declaration of blessing. Did I not call you to curse this people? He shouted, defeat edging into his voice. Why have you blessed them instead? It is not in my power to change the decrees of the Most High, Balaam replied with solemnity, the weight of the divine truth echoing in his words. What God has blessed, I cannot ever curse. The realization sunk deep into Balak's heart, sowing the seeds of dread and anger. The fury of a rejected king was brewing like an approaching storm, yet Balaam, filled with the Spirit of God, continued, Behold, a star shall rise out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise from Israel. His eyes glimmered with prophetic vision, revealing a tapestry of the future where blessings were intertwined with glory, anticipation crowned with hope. Balak's face twisted in anguish, grasping at the strings of his unraveling expectation. Go home, he commanded, dismissing Balaam with a wave of his hand, the desperation for power thrown against an unyielding reality. As Balaam turned to depart, the truth of his destiny settled firmly within him. Would this be his end, an instrument of God's mercy sent to a hard-hearted king, or merely a step on a larger path yet unveiled? The heart of the matter lay cloaked in divine mystery, poised with meaning unfathomable to human sight. And it was here that the echo of Yahweh resounded, out of such humility and obedience, a remnant shall rise, for my plans are higher than the heavens. The shadow of a greater revelation loomed just on the horizon, paving the way for the unfolding of a covenant steeped in promise and redemption. As Balaam departed from the presence of Balak, the weight of the king's fury lingered in the air, a palpable tension binding him to uncertainty. He journeyed back toward his encampment, his heart troubled yet vibrating with the truth imparted to him by the Lord. In the stillness of the midday sun, he felt the gentleness of God pressing upon him, guiding his steps like a shepherd leading his flock. The echo of the prophetic blessing lingered in his mind, for from the waters they shall be like the dew of the mountains, and like grasses by the flowing stream. As Balaam's soul pondered these profound mysteries, the scenery around him shifted as if the hand of God orchestrated every detail of creation for his purpose. But lo, in that moment of reverie, the very creature upon which he rode the donkey seemed to sense the spiritual turmoil. With a sudden jolt, the donkey turned aside from the path and pressed against the wall of the vineyard, ensnaring Balaam's foot. Anger ignited within Balaam, and he struck the donkey, demanding obedience with fierce words. Then, a remarkable transformation unfurled. The Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it spoke with the voice of a mere creature. What have I done to you, that you have beaten me these 3 times? The donkey asked, its tone imbued with an innocence that cut through Balaam's wrath. In that moment, Balaam was stunned, mid-strike with eyes wide open, recognizing the divine intervention that had just transpired. He turned his eyes to the path, and there stood the once hidden angel of the Lord, sword drawn, blocking the path. Why do you strike your donkey? The angel inquired, his voice filled with an authority that rendered Balaam mute. I have sinned, Balaam admitted, falling to his knees in humility, overwhelmed by the intricacies of God's communication. The presence of the angel emanated a profound sense of awe, and he understood his peril in standing against the Almighty's will. Go, said the angel, and speak only what I tell you. The directive echoed with heavenly authority, piercing his soul, filling him with a reverent fear. As Balaam rose from the ground, trembling, he understood that no earthly power could thwart the decrees of God. He now carried the mantle of a prophet, compelled to act not out of greed or fear of man, but under the weight of divine command. The burning intensity of his failure and God's mercy intertwined like vines upon a tree, growing in his heart. Moving onward to Balak, his steps resonated with renewed purpose. Arriving back at the high places of Baal, he found Balak awaiting him, fury still etched upon his face. But the relentless truth escaped Balaam's lips, a rhythmic poetry of blessing and destiny. God is not a man, that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should change his mind. With each utterance, Balak's heart quaked, realizing the stubbornness of his own rebellion against the Almighty. Balaam continued to speak, unveiling visions of glory, victory, and the unconquerable nature of Israel. For the Lord's plan was unfolding with every prophetic word spoken, launching forth the promise, for he would not relent until his will was accomplished. The foretelling of Israel's enduring triumph echoed into eternity, resounding through generations yet to come. Amidst Balaam's declarations, a new prophecy emerged, a burning ember igniting hope within the hearts of those who chose to hear. A remnant shall rise, and out of Zion shall come the deliverer, breathed Balaam, his voice elevated to a crescendo. And in that stirring moment, the people of God would foresee a greater deliverance, setting the stage for a promise yet to be fulfilled, for the tapestry of history lay intricately woven within the sovereign hands of God, guiding his people homeward, forever and always. The mystery remained, what great work would unfold from what had begun? And it came to pass that as Balaam stood before Balak, a heavy silence enveloped them. The king's eyes glistened with unbridled expectation, yet tempered with the shadow of doubt. "What word has come from your God?" he demanded, his voice taut with urgency. Balaam, bearing the weight of divine revelation, lifted his face toward the heavens, drawing strength from the Spirit of the Most High. "Thus says the Lord," he proclaimed, each syllable deliberate and steeped in heavenly authority, "do not curse what God has blessed." At these words, Balak's countenance fell, the anger within him igniting like dry tinder in a quickening flame. "Did I not summon you to curse them? How could you return with but a blessing?" he cried out, frustration boiling in his chest. "Behold," Balaam replied, his voice steady, "I cannot speak against the command of the Lord. As I stand here, I see them as they are, a people set apart, like a lion that does not yield." The words flowed from Balaam's lips, buoyed by the very breath of God, wrapping around them like the promise of dawn breaking the night. Balak, agitated and desperate, urged Balaam to ascend to the heights of Peor. Perhaps from there, the Lord will see fit to change his mind. He led the reluctant prophet back toward the mountain, while Balaam's heart wrestled with the knowledge of the divine will. But the promise of God was sealed, unshakable in its truth. On the summit, Balaam stood, eyes cast over the multitude of Israel, encamped beneath the cloud of their own God's glory. The beauty of God's providence was undeniable, and yet the trepidation filled him with awe, for he knew eliciting the Lord's curse was folly. Balaam turned his heart in prayer, seeking further guidance. As he opened his mouth anew, the Spirit surged through him, and he proclaimed profound truths. "Arise, O Balak, and hear, give ear to me, you son of Zippor. God is not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should relent. Has he said, and will he not do it?" The sounds of Balaam's prophecy echoed like thunder, resounding through the canyon, awakening the hearts of those who heard. "A star shall come forth from Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. He shall crush the forehead of Moab, he shall smash down all the sons of Sheth." These prophetic words illuminated the destiny of a people steeped in the promise of God's unfailing covenant. Balak, quaking before the unfolding truth, could feel the ground shift beneath his very ambitions. The tightening of his grasp on sovereignty began to unravel, for the hand of God, like a mighty river, surged forward, unstoppable and divine. As Balaam ceased to speak, an unsettling stillness hung in the air, pregnant with revelation and burden. In that sacred moment, he realized that the blessings declared over Israel were not mere words but a promise unfolding strengthened by God himself. Balak, furious, turned his back on Balaam, peddling ancient fears mixed with resentful curses. But Balaam remained firm, his spirit renewed, for the vision of the deliverer would herald a greater freedom, a divine mystery awaiting fulfillment, echoing through the ages. Thus the narrative continued, leaving all who bore witness with a lingering sense of divine portent, for in those words lay the seed of a far-reaching hope. what further revelations awaited them in the unfurling tapestry of God's sovereign plan, where the destiny of nations and the hearts of men converged. And it came to pass that Balak, consumed by wrath, turned away with despair in his heart, cursing his fate and the people whom he could not subdue. Balaam, however, remained enveloped in the presence of the Lord, his spirit stirred with divine purpose. The words he had spoken echoed in the recesses of his mind, a reminder of the sacred trust placed upon him. Is there no way to appease this wrath? Balak lamented, his voice trembling with indignation. Have I not offered you riches beyond measure? Have I not shown you honor befitting a king? Balaam's brow furrowed, for he saw not the riches of men but an eternal treasure in the heart of God. No earthly gain can sway the will of the Almighty. You seek to profit from what he has decreed, he declared resolutely. Balak raised his voice, pleading in haste. Come with me, I implore you. Let us sacrifice to the Lord. Perhaps he will allow a flicker of curse upon them. Where the Lord has not given, can he not take away? And once more, Balaam sought the counsel of the Almighty. His heart was heavy, wrestling between loyalty to his calling and the enticement of the riches offered before him. In prayer, he beseeched, O Lord, grant me understanding, for I am but a vessel of your words. Suddenly, the Spirit of the Lord fell upon him anew, filling him with a vision that struck like lightning through the night. Behold, came the voice, return to Balak, but tell him only what I command. Thus, Balaam descended from the heights, his heart fortified but trembling, for he knew he would deliver words both potent and divine. As he met Balak once again, a palpable tension surged between them, as if the very air was charged with heavenly portent. Stand and listen, O king. Balaam instructed, for the words I bring are neither mine nor yours, but from the mouth of the Lord. And with that, he proclaimed, what God sees, none may alter. He does not examine the outward appearance, he searches the heart and knows the intention behind every deed. Balak's face twisted with a mixture of hope and despair, for he had witnessed already the blessings pronounced upon Israel, words that seemed to carry the weight of the heavens. Balaam continued, God has not beheld iniquity in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. The Lord their God is with them, and the shout of a king is among them. The power of the proclamation shook the mountaintop, reverberating with the truth of divine favor. Balak's countenance darkened, for he understood that Balaam was not merely a puppet in his hands. The words of the prophet struck deep, piercing through with a resonance that stirred his very soul. What have I done? He whispered, fear rippling through his heart. Balaam, sensing the weight of the revelation upon them both, declared further, a people who cannot be moved, a generation that shall arise. He prophesied the rise of a mighty king, whose throne would surpass the might of nations. In that moment, Balak's ambitions seemed as dust in a wind, fleeting and insubstantial. Yet beneath the shadows of uncertainty, his heart began to wrestle with an awakening, a flicker of something far greater than the throne he sought. As the sun began to set over the horizon, the beauty of God's promises washed over the land like golden rays of light, illuminating the path forward. All witnessed the unfolding mystery, for amidst their fears lay a promise that transcended their understanding, and as Balaam gazed toward the multitude of Israel, he felt the weight of destiny the Lord had placed upon him, igniting within him a fervent longing to see the fullness of God's plans fulfilled. But beyond the mountains and valleys, a greater truth remained hidden in the tapestry of God's sovereign will. What was it that awaited fulfillment in the chronicles of time? For even now, God's plan for salvation was weaving through the pages of history, where the cries for redemption would echo toward a greater hope, an arrival yet foretold that would change the course of mankind forever. As the dawn broke over the land, the shadows of the night receded, casting a gentle light upon the multitude of Israel. Balaam, sensing the gravity of his recent pronouncements, felt a stirring within him, a beckoning from the Lord to remain vigilant. The air was thick with anticipation, for both Balak and Balaam stood on the precipice of divine destiny, and Balak, despairing over his thwarted plans, turned to Balaam with an intensity burning in his eyes. If I cannot have a curse spoken upon them, then let us seek a blessing. What must I do to turn the heart of your God against this people? Balaam, unshaken by Balak's insistence, replied, the Lord's plans are unchangeable, his will is as firm as the mountains that uphold the heavens. If he has chosen to bless, then nothing shall stand against it. You seek the wrong path, O king. In that moment, the Spirit of the Lord moved upon Balaam once more, filling him with a vision that transcended the immediate plight. Speak thus to Balak, commanded the Lord, tell him of my unwavering covenant with Israel. For I am the God who remembered my promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. With a voice like thunder, Balaam started anew. Behold, O king! Israel, a people gathered upon the mountains, shall be as a lion among beasts. The Lord is not a man, that he should lie, nor the Son of Man, that he should change his mind. Has he said, and will he not do it? Has he spoken, and will he not fulfill it? Balak shifted uneasily, his mind racing with thoughts of his enduring conflict. But what of the strength of my armies? What of the force I command? They cannot stand before me unless the Lord allows it. Balaam lifted his gaze to the heavens, feeling the weight of the heavens itself resting upon him. Ah, but their strength lies not in swords and shields, but in the covenantal promise of God. He will guide them and protect them from every assault, for they are the apple of his eye. In that moment, a great silence fell, echoing around the mountain like the stillness before a storm. The hearts of those who listened were vibrating with the truth of God's words. The elders of Israel gathered, their heads bowed in humility, and the sound of their cries ascended like incense before the Lord, pleading for mercy and help. Balak's face fell, fury wrestled with fear within him. What do I gain, then, seeking you to speak such words over my plight? I have brought you here to curse them, and yet I hear only the blessings of their God. Indeed, your riches are of little worth, Balaam said, if it means opposing the sovereign plans of the Almighty. The recompense of the Lord cannot be exchanged for silver or gold, for his favor is life itself. His eyes of love are upon his chosen, and they shall thrive even in the face of your might. As dusk fell again, a suffocating sense of foreboding loomed over Balak. Yet, deep in his spirit, he felt the rumble of a truth greater than his fears. What may I do to find favor with this God of Israel? He asked at last, his voice trembling. Balaam softened, sensing the king's turmoil. Humility and repentance may lay the path for restoration. Seek the God of Israel not in despair, but in reverence, and perhaps, ye shall find his pity. Yet even as dawn approached, shadows loomed over Balak's heart, questioning the depths of his own ambition. Would he humble himself before the Maker of heaven and earth, or continue to forge his destiny in opposition to the one who spoke existence into being? Thus, the saga unfolded amid the settling night, while the stars gazed down in studied silence. Balak wrestled with his fate, as the promise of salvation for Israel loomed ever larger, a flicker in the darkness that whispered of a greater fulfillment still veiled in divine purpose. For within the hearts of men lay the mystery of God's sovereign design, and while they strove against him, his plan would persevere, leading to a day none could foresee when all nations would bow before the true King. As the sun arose anew upon the land, its light illuminating the hopes of Israel, Balak's heart remained restless. Consumed by the shadows of doubt and defiance, he summoned Balaam once more, desiring clarity amid the spiritual turmoil that gnawed at him. Come, speak to me again. Let us fortify our endeavors with a deeper understanding. Balaam, attuned to the divine pulse within him, responded solemnly, O king, beware the paths of your heart. For the counsel of the Lord is heavier than gold and purer than silver. Listen closely, for the Lord desires to reveal his way and his righteousness. Balak, taking hold of Balaam's arm eagerly, implored, What shall I do? Shall I prepare altars anew? Shall I offer sacrifices, hoping perhaps this God may yet shift in his resolve against them? His spirit wrestled with the weight of those he commanded, as the tension of his ambitions tightened around his heart. Balaam moved with divine purpose, his eyes fixed upon the heavens. Thus says the Lord, even your sacrifices shall not open the gates of his favor if your heart remains hardened. Offer them, but do not expect to sway his will through mere offerings. The God of Israel is not swayed by the blood of bulls and goats alone, but seeks the humility of the heart. Seek him with a contrite spirit. In the stillness that followed, the voice of the Lord echoed not merely in the words spoken, but within the very marrow of Balaam's soul. "Return to your place, O Balaam," the Lord spoke, "and prepare to witness a great unfolding of my purpose. For there shall be lessons not only for Balak, but for all who defy my chosen." Thus, Balak dispatched Balaam, commanding that his finest stallions be readied for a journey into the wilderness. "We shall climb to the heights where the people cannot be seen. There, we shall seek the favor of the Most High," he declared, yet his own heart whispered doubt as he spurred his steeds into action. As Balaam rode, the dust of the earth contrasted bitterly with the turmoil brewing in his spirit. The journey held mysteries unknown, yet in the silence, the Spirit of the Lord rumbled like distant thunder, urging Balaam forward. When at last he neared the heights overlooking Israel, Balaam prepared to pronounce whatever he would hear from the Lord. Yet even as he positioned himself, a strange thing transpired. The donkey upon which Balaam rode, burdened with the weight of its master's intentions, felt a stirring from the divine realm not granted to men. In that sacred moment, the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey. "Why have you beaten me these 3 times? Am I not your donkey, your faithful servant?" The words rang out, piercing through the air with an authority that quelled Balaam's heart. At first, shock struck Balaam mute, yet God's decisive hand was upon him. "You have sought the path of disobedience," the Lord revealed, "and I have opened the eyes of even your beast to guide you. For there lies great peril in resisting my will, and through humility, you may yet find revelation." Balaam's heart trembled, for he perceived that God was not merely revealing his might but his mercy. The soul of a donkey, often regarded as simple and lowly, had borne wisdom in their midst, breaching the walls of human wisdom to display divine intent. As the truth settled upon them, a great peace accompanied Balaam. He understood that God's plans surpassed earthly ambitions or fearsome armies, embedding purpose even in the hearts of the most unexpected creatures, and in that truth, just as a veil began to lift, God's sovereign plan loomed ever greater, setting the stage for a confrontation that would reverberate through history. For even in the wilderness, where simple creatures spoke truth, the shadow of a promise hung over the land. A day was coming when the whole world would behold the true nature of God's redemption, a revelation far beyond the present struggle of kings. As Balaam stood there, the weight of the Lord's revelation bore down upon him, and he understood his charge more clearly than ever before. "O Lord, what shall I speak to Balak?" he uttered with trembling lips, his heart echoing the enormity of divine purpose laid before him. The Lord responded in a voice like the mountain winds, "Go forth, but know this, you shall speak only what I command. My will shall not be twisted by the desires of kings, nor diverted by offerings of men." With that command, Balaam felt the anointing of the Almighty mark his words, like fire igniting the wood of sacrifice. Thus Balaam continued on his journey, the heights looming before him, casting long shadows over the dusty landscape. Balak awaited him, hope lingering in his eyes, as he gazed upon the prophet who bore the promise of divine words. "What has the Lord said?" Balak demanded, his voice quaking with impatience. Balaam ascended to the altar prepared by Balak, the smoke of offerings rising like prayers to the heavens. As he stood there, poised to make known the intentions of the Most High, the land around him felt charged, as though creation itself anticipated the coming revelation. The Spirit of the Lord enveloped Balaam, and he proclaimed, "Balak, son of Zippor, the king of Moab, will you heed the voice of the Lord? For the God of Israel speaks." The words flowed like a river, encompassing the valleys and hills that held the scattered host of Israel. "He shall not be cursed, for whom God has blessed cannot be undone." A silence fell heavy upon them, only to be broken by the murmurs of the attending princes. Balak's brow furrowed, for he had sought to twist the arm of God with his offerings, yet now he found himself ensnared within the Almighty's design. "What is this you say, Balaam?" he cried. "I brought you here to curse them, not to bless." But Balaam, feeling the deep stirring of divine truth within him, answered with unwavering conviction, "I cannot go beyond the command of the Lord my God." His heart was emboldened, for he knew the weight of the words he spoke was not his, but were divine decrees echoing through eternity. "For behold, a people shall rise like a lion, and their king shall be exalted above the nations. They shall smite the corners of the earth and bring forth redemption from the hand of their enemies. Balak's face turned pale, and he clenched his fists in frustration. Then come with me to another place, he demanded. Perhaps from there you may see a part of them and curse them for me. Balaam felt the tug of the Spirit surge within. Lead me where you will, for I must follow only the Lord. They moved to another vantage point, where Balak's hope glimmered faintly. The prophet, standing on the precipice of obedience, looked down upon the camp of Israel, shimmering under the sun like a divine promise unfolding in the desert light. As he prepared to speak once more, the Spirit descended upon him anew, illuminating his heart with visions of the covenant that God had made with his people. Surely there is no enchantment against Israel, nor divination against Jacob. As it is said of them, what hath God wrought? His voice grew thunderous, a clarion call echoing against the mountains, invoking the majesty of heaven. In that moment, confusion reigned in Balak's heart, rage and awe contended within him as the truth unraveled before his eyes. Yet, when Balaam felt God's presence shift, a deep prophecy was about to be unveiled, one that would stretch far beyond his era. Choose, O king, the path of your heart wisely, Balaam declared, for your enmity draws nearer to inevitable consequence. A star will arise out of Jacob, a scepter will come forth to strike the foreheads of Moab, and the kingdom of the world shall tremble. With those resonant words, the tension drew sharp, a knife poised at the brink of destiny. The hearts of men contemplated the will of God still unfolding before them, emboldening the faithful and shaking the wicked, as the shadow of future hope reached beyond the desert sands, for in the whispers of ancient prophecies, a greater fulfillment lingered. A day would emerge when kings would bow, and every tongue would confess the name above all names, bringing forth a covenant that would echo for generations. The path to that promise set before them, awaited only God's perfect timing. As Balaam stood upon the height, his heart heavy with the weight of his own words, Balak's frustration brimmed darkly behind his eyes. That which he had sought to craft through wealth and power had crumbled like dry dust in the wind. What have you done? Balak shouted, his voice edged with ire and desperation. You stand here, proclaiming blessings over a people I have sought to vanquish. Balaam, firm in spirit yet compassionate towards the king, replied, O king of Moab, it is not in my words that the power lies, but in the will of the Lord, the God of Israel. He is not a man, that he should lie, nor a son of man, that he should change his mind. As he maintained eye contact with Balak, he could see the tempest brewing within the heart of the king. If only you might surrender to his designs, you would behold his grace. Balak's anger seethed, and he sought another strategy. Come now. Let us take you to another vantage point, where perhaps you may see more of them and curse them from there. As he turned, his princes followed, and the weight of divine purpose seemed to grow heavier in Balaam's heart. They ascended to the peak of Peor, and Balaam gazed out with deep determination. The encampments lay sprawled beneath him like a sea of tents, swaying under the billowing wind, each one a testament to God's faithfulness to his people. Stand by your altar, commanded Balak, his tone shifting to one draped in urgency. Balaam approached the fire once more, the acrid scent of burnt offerings filling his senses, and in that sacred atmosphere, the Spirit of God enveloped him once again. From the rock, what do I see? Balaam cried, invoking the name of the Lord. Behold, a people dwelling alone and not reckoning themselves among the nations. His voice thundered down like clouds bursting with rain. Who can count the dust of Jacob or number the fourth part of Israel? Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my end be like theirs. Balak's despair deepened, and he drew back, raking his hands through his hair in disbelief. You have blessed them again. Why will you not curse them as I have asked? The very ground under them seemed to tremble in response to the gravity of their exchange. Balaam, his heart aflame with the truth of God's heart, spoke again, God is not a man that he should lie. His covenant stands firm through all generations, no affliction will overtake them. A king will arise, and he shall be greater than all earthly kings, for the scepter will not depart from Jacob. Balak's face twisted with the struggle of resisting the truth laid bare before him. He could feel the weight of history crashing like waves, seemingly inexorable in its advance. The air was thick with divine intention, and the very essence of prophecy echoed along the cliffs. As Balaam delivered the unfurling word, he sensed the moment when destiny intertwined with humanity. He prophesied, "The ship of Tarshish shall carry forth the good news, and from Israel shall come forth a mighty deliverer, one prepared in the full measure of grace." When Balak heard of this unprecedented hope woven forth in Balaam's words, his spirit wavered between fury and dread. "What is this I hear?" The king marveled, half in anger and half in awe. "The gods of Moab are silent before the might of Israel's God." With the air electrified by divine presence, Balaam felt a stirring. The words of the Lord were flowing like water through him, revealing the magnificent tapestry of his sovereign rule over all nations. The ultimate journey is not one of mere conquest of men, but the victorious culmination of God's righteousness, he declared, his voice resonating against the heavens. In that sacred moment, a flicker of understanding ignited in Balak's heart, and he realized that his battles were not against flesh and blood but warring forces unseen. Thus, a greater battle loomed over the horizon, where the plans of God would unfurl in every corner of creation. The silence between the prophet and king stretched thin with weighty anticipation as the prophecy hung pregnant with meaning. For the promise remained, a day would come when every knee would bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, unfolding the mystery of God's sovereign plan to bring all things together in him. As the dawn broke radiant and golden, illuminating the heights of Peor, Balaam stood grounded in the tension of divine revelation. The hand of the Almighty gripped his heart, urging him to proclaim words that would echo throughout history. Balak's frustration rippled around him, the shadows of his ambitious desires darkening the encounter, but Balaam, fortified by the Spirit, knew the course laid before him was untouched by human ambition. "Will you not listen, O Balak?" Balaam implored, his voice steady like a mountain stream. "For the Lord has resolved to bless his people, and no curse shall be found upon them. Their destiny is sealed in the heavens." Balak's eyes flared with indignation, wrestling against the burgeoning understanding that God's sovereignty far surpassed his own intentions. "What can be done?" he exclaimed, darting a restless glance across the landscape where the Israelites, unaware of the drama unfolding above, remained steadfast in their encampment. Balaam breathed deeply, the divine vision unfolding within him. "You would seek to ensnare what God has freed. No divination holds sway, nor enchantment can alter the path appointed for Israel. They are as a lion who, in its might, shall rise up against the foes that surround them." His tone softened, for pity mingled with resolute truth. "If only you would yield your heart, O king." Yet Balak, bewildered and consumed by anger, urged Balaam again. "Let us pursue a different path for your oracles. Perhaps from the heights of this mountain, the Lord may show himself differently." The king's persistence swirled like a tempest, but beneath this dance of ambition lay an unshakable tension, revealing the struggle waging within each heart that sought to challenge heaven. The two ascended to a third height, one that bore the promise of a different perspective, while Balaam grappled with the understanding of God's ways that transcend human sight. Upon reaching the summit, the air felt charged with urgency, and the prophet turned his gaze toward the people below. The encampment of Israel swathed in glory and grace. "Listen, Balak," Balaam declared, his voice booming against the backdrop of stillness. "The Almighty laments not the destiny he has wrought for his chosen. For as surely as the sun rises, so too shall his hand protect them." The Spirit engulfed Balaam anew, and the ancient song of prophecy burst forth from his soul. "Spirit of the living God, arise within me. For what do I see? The tent of Jacob, adorned with God's light." His heart trembled with the weight of revelation. Like the hills that stand firm, so does his covenant. As it is said, "There shall arise a star out of Jacob, a scepter out of Israel, it shall smite the borders of Moab." His voice rang like a trumpet, piercing through Balak's darkness and igniting the hearts of those who heard. Balak staggered back, dread etching its lines upon his brow, feeling the divine hand tighten around his ambitions. "What is this you speak?" he demanded, embers of fury igniting in his chest. "You've cursed me with hope. Speak quickly of your words, yet I am undone." Balaam, resolute, continued steadfastly, for the Lord has chosen Israel as his treasure, a people set apart from all nations. When the heavens speak, all creation listens, and in their rise, the earth shakes. A silence blanketed the peak, enveloping the gathering in a sacred moment. What lay near was more than mere words. Beneath the surface, an intricate tapestry of divine purpose unfolded, weaving together destinies long intertwined. The heart of Balaam swelled with the realization of unity that transcended present struggles, revealing the eternal promise to come. Know this, Balak, the heart of God beats for redemption, and no earthly power can thwart his designs. For a prophet has risen among you, a voice that cries in the wilderness, echoing among the hills and valleys. As his words cascaded down the mountain, they resonated through the ears of men as a clarion call of hope that in the shadows cast by lingering doubts, Balak wrestled with his own heart. Could it be that the tides of his ambition washed away against the mighty shore of God's will? In this throbbing moment, as Balaam's voice soared high, the king began to glimpse the profound mystery, that the desire for dominion over Israel required a surrender of his own heart unto the one who governs all. Shall not the children of God know their worth? Balaam spoke once more, each syllable imbued with the essence of truth. A deliverer comes, and his reign shall stretch across the ages, unbroken. For from the heart of Israel, nations will know my God, the God of the covenant. Balak's face reflected a blend of rage and wonder. What fate awaits me then, if I do not heed the path lit by your words? Balaam paused, sensing the weight of the moment heavy in the air. It is a choice, O king. To align with the will of God is to find peace eternal, where all battle ceases, even as glorious visions unfold. But to stand against him is to court the shadow of despair, for the sun will rise upon his chosen with inexorable strength. The tension stretched taut, filling the space between them with a pregnant silence, as yet another layer of God's great design began to reveal itself. With the unfurling promise of hope hovering like a morning mist, the people of Israel awaited something grand, something that would encompass all and lead generations forward in a narrative unraveling against the backdrop of salvation, for even in the midst of a desperate king and a reluctant prophet, the promise loomed large, a covenant yet fulfilled, a mystery poised to collide with history. What steps would Balak take? Would the heart of man be softened in the face of divine will? And amidst the uncertainty, the question echoed, what great work awaited in the shadow of the Almighty's sovereign plan?